Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Daryl Franklin. I'm here with Big Hairy Dog. We're going to take a look at doing reports in QuickBooks Point of Sale. We'll take a look at different report types that are available. We'll take a look at how to modify those reports. We'll even take a brief look at how you can create a report from scratch. To be honest, I never do that because it seems like a total waste to create a report from scratch. Jonathan, you had a question?
No question.
Okay. All right. So starting up here, I'll open up my QuickBooks Point of Sale. So there's a couple of three ways you can get to reports. You can get to reports by going to the reports button over here in the blue buttons. You can get to reports by going to the reports icon out here in the navigator. You can get to reports by going to the menu bar at the top. I like to go to the menu bar up on the top because I find that the quickest and easiest way. Plus, from there, you can choose exactly what section you want to go to for reports. From here, you can choose what area you wish to run, and you can see if you want to run a sales report, you have all your different sales reports you can choose from. Same thing applies to cash drawer reports, payment reports, customer reports, item reports, purchasing, employees, financial exchange, and memorized reports. So if we start out with sales reports, there are many different kinds of sales reports you can run. You can run a best and worst sellers, tells you what you're selling the most of or what you're selling the least of. To run the report, you select it. You can choose a date range that you want this report to run for. You can change the date range by either coming over and picking a date range that you want to run for, or by coming here and custom typing the dates you want. Once you've chosen those, you can apply that date range, and it will update your report to reflect that new date range that you choose. You can resort this report by whatever you would like to sort by. I can't read this particular heading. If I wanted to fix that, I can point at any of the headings, right-click, and tell it to adjust column width, and it will readjust my columns to fit the widest thing in that column, whether it's the text in the column or whether it happens to be the header for that column. I can resort my list by anything that has a little blue ball in front of it. If you see a little triangle in front of it, that is the column that you are currently sorted by. So I am currently sorted by extended price, and I am sorted Z to A, so I see my largest to smallest extended price sales. I can see I'm looking at my best 20 records. I can adjust that and change that number if I desire and update the report. I'm looking at my best 20. If I re-click on that little arrow, it will then do A to Z, and I'm now looking at my worst 20. I could do the same thing for quantity. If I click on my quantity arrow, I'm looking at the worst by quantity, or I click it again so that it's pointing down. It's now Z to A, and I'm looking at my best products. So I can easily modify a simple report. I can have more than one report visible at a time. I can choose all reports, and I can choose another report. I can choose my most common returns and see what gets returned the most often. If I'm done with the report, I can click the little arrow, or the little, not arrow, the little red X beside the report title, and that will close that particular report. I can take a look at an item summary. That shows me a list of all of my items that I've sold during whatever time frame I choose. Right now, I'm looking at everything forever. I can come up here and I can add a date range, and I could change it to this year, month to date, and I would see, and then apply that date range, and I would see what items I've sold this month. My sales tend to be a little anemic because I don't sell all that much. I can also choose to run a report that gives me a detailed report of sales. That shows me each sale that has occurred during a specific time period. And it shows me the date of that sale. And I can see the date of each sale. The little plus in front of it, if I click on that, I see the actual items that were sold on that particular sale. Up at the top, I can click on the word expand, and it will show me what was sold on each receipt. It expands the entire receipt. I can click collapse and collapse them all back down again. I can modify a report by going up to modify. Under modify, I can choose to add or remove columns. Anything with a check mark is what is currently being displayed. If I don't want to see something, I can uncheck it. Or if I want to see something in addition to what I'm looking at, I can add that. I could choose to see the subtotal of these reports, and I can add the subtotal. If I save that and run it, it will add the subtotal column, and I could grab that. I could drag it back over here and drop it. You can see the little red dot there. That tells me where I'm going to be dropping it at. So I'm going to be dropping it between tax and shipping. And I drop it in there, and I get my subtotal. If I wanted to see a particular item on this report, you notice I have a magnifying glass. I can pick an item or a receipt. I can double click it, and it will actually take me to that receipt, and I can see what is on that receipt. And I can see down here my subtotal for that receipt, my shipping, my sales tax, and my grand total. Close will take me out of that receipt and put me back in my report. And back to more sales reports. I can look at a department summary, which shows me a summary of my items that were sold according to the department that those items belong in. I can also take a look at a report for discounts that were given. A discount summary report would show me any discounts that were given and the reason for that discount. My discounts apparently negated themselves out. I've got one discount type here of comp, but I've got a total dollar amount of 0, so they apparently negated themselves out. If I change to a broader date range, then I get some other discounts. The blank line up here, that means there was no discount reason given for those discounts, which you can see is the majority of the discounts that were given. Dollar-wise, there was no reason. You can, in the setup of your point of sale, require that a reason be given on all discounts that are given so that you don't have the option to not enter a reason, that you cannot leave it blank. And you can see exactly why your discounts are being given. Then you can analyze, why are we doing so many that way? We can also come down and look at some graphics. We can run a graph that shows our merchandise sold. They show you what was sold, and we're looking at it by price and item name. We could also switch and look at it by department. Could look at it by vendor, or we could look at it by attribute or item description. There's several different ways. We can also look at it by margin, by cost, or by quantity, or by total margin dollars. We could even go up here and do a modify. We could change the report content, and we could switch the type of graph we're looking at. Instead of looking at a bar chart, we could turn it into a pie chart, and we could see it as a pie chart. So we're able to modify almost all of our reports in one way or another. We can run reports for date comparisons also that show us our sales from month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, whatever date range we choose to use in our date comparison. We can pick 2 date ranges, and we see our results for the 4/1 to 4/30, and for 2/1 to 3/31. We can see our sales by department and see how they compare between those 2 time periods. We can also do that date comparison as a graph, and we get 2 different color bars, one for one set and one for the other set. Under cash flow reports, we can choose to run an XOut or a ZOut report. With ZOut reports, we have 2 different choices. A drawer count, which with the drawer count, you need to count the cash in your drawer and report how much you are selling. With the store close and the XOut, it is simply going to show you here is what occurred for sales during that day. It's not going to break it down to specific dollar amounts, and it doesn't care about the dollar amount. If you have payouts, you can also run a list of payouts that you may have done. So if I do an XOut here, my current date range says I've got nothing to print, which was today. I didn't make any sales. But if I change this to cover the month, then I get some sales. I can see I had $800 in non-taxable sales. I had $20 in taxable sales. And we'll make this a little easier to see here. I had $1.70 in tax, $821.69 for a subtotal of my sales. I had $45 in shipping returns, and I had $5 that were given out in tips. I can see the total number of sales. I can see the total number paid by credit card. The paid out would be returns to a credit card. I can see the breakdown, MasterCard and Visa. I can see the breakdown of the tips, and I can see the breakdown of each credit card. A ZOut would look exactly the same. At least the ZOut store close would. The drawer count would have me pop the drawer and count the cash. My payments reports let me do a payment summary. A payment summary will show you a summary of what I did each day, and it breaks it down by the tender types that were collected on that particular day. Again, I can set whatever date range I want to look at for that information. I can run a list of checks, see a list of the checks that were done. I can look at my gift certificate list. The gift certificate list can show you what gift certificate number you have, and it can show you whether you are using or selling that gift certificate. Negative numbers would be when a gift certificate was sold. A positive number would be when a gift certificate was redeemed. You can do the same thing for credit cards, debit cards, and gift cards, as well as account charges. Our customers list allows us to take a look at our customers, and we are able to see precisely what sales our customers made. We can see a list of all of our customers. We can take a look at customer sales. That shows my customer's name and the sales that were done by that customer and the date range that I choose. I can do a zip code summary, which would show me what zip codes my customers belong to. I can take a look at layaway details or sales order details or work order details, assuming that I have any that exist, and it will show me who has what for those layaways, sales orders, or work orders. And I can see here I have a sales order that was done on 3/20. If I click on the little plus, it shows me the items that are on that sales order. It also shows me what the deposit balance is on it and how much is still due to pay off the balance of this sales order. If you do customer rewards, then you can take a look at who is a member of your customer rewards, and rewards history will show you anything that was redeemed for those customer rewards. I don't have any set up. Under items, which would be my inventory list, we can take a look at an inventory summary, which will break down your inventory by department. You see how many items you have in each department, how many you have on order for each department, what your cost or price is for the number of items you have on hand. Again, you can modify that report, and you can add or subtract information from this report. Whenever you modify a report, you'll notice that the option down here is Save. What that means that if I modify this report and I close out, next time I look at it, I am going to get the same result. If I take a look and add margin percentage here, and I save this report and I run it, it will add my margin percentage for these sales. If I close that report and run my inventory summary again, it's still going to have the margin on there, because if you make a change to a report, that change is going to stick, which sometimes can cause you an issue when you're looking at reports, because if I filter this report and only look at some merchandise or some information and then run this report again, that's what I'm going to see next time I run this report. So I'm not going to see the full data information show up. So that's something to be aware of. We can do an items list, which shows you a complete list of all your stuff. You can sort it by department. You could add vendor and sort it by vendor, any way you want. Sorted by department, I have subtotals occurring so that I can see my subtotals for each of those departments. Inventory valuation. Inventory valuation is kind of a cool report. Inventory valuation allows you to choose a date. And when you choose a date, it shows you what your inventory is on that particular date. If I go up here and change this date from July of 2018 to July of 2019 and apply that date, my information will change, because now I'm looking at how my inventory was on actually today. I don't know how I ended up with that date, because that wasn't what I was aiming for. Oh, I know how I ended up on that date, because I chose July 19, and July 19 isn't here yet. So it chose the closest date it could pick, which was today, and I see my inventory today. If I changed it to January 1st, now we see my inventory on January 1st, and because I don't make a lot of sales in my point of sale, you don't see a whole lot of change. But it's a kind of neat little report, because it will let you change precisely what you're looking at. Again, if I was to run that report again, it's going to show me January 30th, because that was the last date I ran it for. And it stays on whatever you do last. If you want to change a report and want to be able to recall that change, but not wipe out your entire report, you could run a report such as summary with activity, and I could modify this report, and I could add to this report not only my current inventory and what I've sold during the time period specified, but I could add receiving and purchase order information to this report, and I can run that, and it will add that information as well. And I get that information as well. If I want to memorize this report, I can go over here to I want to memorize this report and call it summary with everything. And I can memorize that report. I can close it. If I rerun my summary with activity, I'm going to get my normal report, because when I ran it, I memorized it. So now that report is showing up in my memorized reports, and I've got summary with everything, and I see that report with the changes without changing my original report. I can memorize a special version by memorizing that report and then closing that report before I do any other changes, and then my original report will still be in its original condition, and I won't have odd filters or things like that that mess up the report next time I try to look at it. Under purchasing, I can see any purchase orders I may have. I can also take a look at any receiving that I may have. So under summary, I see a summary of my purchase orders. I see who they're to. If I choose detail, I get the little expansion plus, and I can see precisely what is on that particular order. Under receiving, I can run a summary of what I have received. I've got the magnifying glass. That means I can double click on it, and it will show me the orders that I received and what was on those orders. I could also find that information by doing the receiving detail, and it would also let me see that information for all of my different miscellaneous reports. I can also see a list of my vendors from my purchasing reports. Under employees, I've got several different employee reports I can run. I can run one for commissions, and if you pay commissions, it will show you the employee name and whatever commissions they may have earned. I don't have any commissions set up, so I have no commissions for my employees. Commissions in point of sale are one level. Each employee could have a different commission rate that they earn, but they earn that flat commission rate on anything that they sell that qualifies for commission. And each item can be specified whether or not that item qualifies to earn commissions. Employee sales would let you take a look at an employee's sales during whatever time periods you're picking. Shows you how many items are sold, the price and the cost, and the margin that is being made on those sales. You notice you get the magnifying glass again, which means you can double click and you can see the breakdown of those sales. If you pay tips, you can see what tips were collected. And let's see, and we can see we've got that one $5 tip that was done. And if I right click, adjust column width, we can see the employee, we can see what receipt number that tip was, and what the date was, and how that tip was paid. You can also run timesheets. If you have your employees clock in and out on the point of sale, you can run a weekly timesheet, which shows you the breakdowns by week. You can run a time clock detail, which shows you a list of all the clock in and clock out. You can run a time clock summary, which shows you the total time that the employee was clocked in for whatever time period you specify. And you specify for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever your pay period may be, and it shows you the total hours that that employee worked during that time period. And that shows you for each of your employees. And you can run a list of your employees. Financial exchange, if you are working and interfacing your point of sale with QuickBooks Accounting, then this allows you to look at a history of those exchanges. The memorized reports shows you any memorized reports that you may have created. The system comes with today's receipts, busy times, best 20 as default memorized reports. Everything else is something that I've played with and created. If you decide that you don't need some of this stuff anymore, you can go up here to I want to. You can go to manage my reports. You can go through your list of reports and you can delete anything that you have no use for. And you can add or modify or create other subgroups that you want to divide those reports into. Okay. You had a question, Ron?
Right. I have two things that I need to talk about. What's the difference on your sales reports when you have XOut and ZOut store close? What's the difference there?
The XOut is designed to be a summary report, but the true difference between an XOut and a ZOut store close, there aren't any.
Okay.
They both do exactly the same thing. They both show you exactly the same data. The only real difference is typically your ZOut is going to be set up to default to today or to yesterday. With the XOut, you might run any time period you want, and because you run those randomly. Right.
The reason I ask is in my other business prior to this one, the ZOut means that we didn't have it set to default at the end of the day. ZOut would finish the sales for the day, and XOut would be something you could go at periodically during the day to see the totals, the running totals, and then ZOut would zero everything out.
Correct. In normal or in some point of sale systems, that is absolutely true. The ZOut is a finalization report, and it closes out whatever happened that day literally. With point of sale, it never really closes anything out. A couple of years ago, before they changed the way they handled their credit cards and Intuit credit cards, when you did the ZOut, it did have an option, which you usually chose, to settle your credit cards.
Yeah.
But now the credit cards settle automatically at midnight, so it doesn't even do that anymore.
Okay, so that makes sense. The second question is, we seem to be having issues with our item list report if we put in, for instance, more than one vendor or more than one department, we get no items listed at all.
I assume you're talking about filtering.
Yeah. When I go, for instance, I go to items and summary with activity. I'm just doing it right now. Whoops. I want to cancel that. I also want to mention that we always have prompt to modify report options before running clicked, down the bottom left-hand side. We always do that so that we can filter. So if I go in and filter and I put in 2 different vendors and I hit run, well, now here we go. Well, I put in Columbia and I put in another vendor, and all I'm getting is Columbia.
Right. On both lists or just the sold list?
Let me run this again. I'm doing on items by detail. Okay, so Columbia. Yeah, I put in 2 vendors, and oops, oh wait, okay, I take that back. I'm getting another vendor in here as well. So I see it. Now that must have been something that was fixed in the new version because we weren't getting it prior to getting the updated version. What is it, 9 that we're on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, so you go down and you can choose the vendor. You check off the vendor or vendors that you want to see the report for.
Yeah.
And then you say okay, and it filters for just those vendors.
Okay. So it looks like I'm mistaken on that one. So go ahead.
All right, excellent. Because that was one I hadn't seen it do before, unless you're talking about a data range. And then I've seen that happen with a data range, where there's actually nothing in that range, but you were pretty sure there was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I have no more questions.
All right. At least for the moment.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So the next thing we have is we've looked through all the different report types. We've looked at how you can modify a report. You can also filter a report for something specific. If we go to sales and I choose sales detail, hey, that's not what I said. Get back up there. And I choose sales detail. And if I come up here and I modify it and I run a filter, I can filter for all kinds of stuff. I can filter for a particular store. I can filter for a particular set of receipt numbers, a particular workstation that rang it up, returned items, receipt types, sales type, quantity sold, discounts, just all kinds of stuff I can receive for or filter for. If I come down here and I filter for all right, where did it go? I hate it when that happens. And I can't find the one I'm looking for. I was looking for my payment type. But I'm not seeing it. But if I filtered for sales with a price 50 to $250 and said save and run, it filters down to I only get the ones that had a total of 50 or more. And the problem is if I close this report and I rerun my sales report, I get the same thing. And that can really cause you issues because it's easy to forget that you've got a filter running. If you want to turn this report back to normal, we can go to modify, and I can go to my filter and try to remove the filter, or I can say revert. Revert takes it back to the way it came out of the box. And it cleans up everything. And then I get everything back. I can say I've got sales for under $50 and for over $250. And so I can change things around by reverting that filter. I did lose some of the columns I had here. because those were columns I had customly added, and I would have to re-add those columns if I wanted to see them again, because now this is the way the report's going to look. So that's something to be aware of. The other one is that you can go over here to the overview, and you can see a list of your memorized reports. You can see some reports that point of sale feels are common reports that people run. You can also go up here to I want to, and you can create a report. I really don't have much use for create a report. Create a report shows you the 5 main columns that you can create reports in. It then lets you choose the report that you want to create and how you want to create that report. So if I want to do a custom sales report, we can go next. I can do summarize sales. I can do a summarized sales graph. I can do a detailed sales receipt level. I can do sales tax that was collected or mobile sales. If I choose, I want to do a summarized sales, I can choose how I want to summarize them by item, style, department, vendor, customer, zip code, promo code, store, how I might want to sort that and present it on a graph. The thing I find annoying about the customized report is they are going to be customized, but my choices are the same choices I get if I open up the standard report and just modify it. And personally, I'd rather open up the standard report and modify it than try to start from scratch and pick everything out. I think it's simpler to just pick a report you want to work from and then go into modify. So if we pick a sales item summary, I can then come up here and modify, and I got a place to start, and then I can add or take away any columns I want. I can save it, memorize it, and have that report available in the future, just as if I'd created it from scratch, but I don't have to go through quite as much work to create it from scratch. So, any questions on that? No? All right. Well, that kind of summarizes up reports. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, 916-368-1070, or drop us a line. You can drop us a line at tech, T-E-C-H, at bighairydog.com, or you can drop me a line to Darrell, that's D-A-R-R-E-L-L-F as in Franklin, at Big Hairy Dog, and I'll be glad to answer your questions for you. All right. Hopefully everybody got something new out of the reports, and if there's anything we can help you with, feel free to give us a holler. So have a great one, and we'll talk to you again soon.